Take a group of elite business school students and pit them against a team of kindergartners in a competition to build the tallest tower out of dry spaghetti, tape, and a marshmallow. You would probably bet on the MBAs. But in dozens of trials conducted across universities like Stanford and the University of Tokyo, the kindergartners consistently won, and they won by a lot. The business students built towers averaging less than 10 inches, while the 5-year-olds averaged 26. The MBAs failed because they spent almost all their time managing status. They carefully analyzed the materials, politely negotiated who was in charge, and tried to figure out the rules of their temporary social hierarchy. The kids barely spoke. They just stood shoulder to shoulder, grabbing materials and testing ideas. The kindergartners prove that while individual talent is valuable, it doesn't automatically translate into collective performance. There is a different, less visible mechanism at work here that determines whether a group succeeds or collapses. To isolate that mechanism, researchers planted an actor named Nick into 40 different small group projects. Nick was instructed to act out one of 3 toxic roles: the aggressive jerk, the quiet slacker, or the pessimistic downer. This chart shows exactly how well the sabotage worked. Across the board, Nick's toxic behavior infected the groups, dragging their overall productivity down by 30 to 40%. One group, however, broke the pattern. In this team, a participant named Jonathan completely neutralized Nick's sabotage. He didn't do this by asserting dominance or yelling. Every time Nick acted out, Jonathan would lean in, make eye contact, and warmly ask the group, "What do you guys think?" Jonathan bypassed traditional authoritative leadership. He disarmed the saboteur using subtle, nonverbal behaviors. If raw intelligence or strict command aren't the things saving a team from collapse, we have to figure out what invisible force is actually doing the heavy lifting. At MIT, Dr. Sandy Penland and his lab set out to measure this exact force. They equipped hundreds of professionals with wearable devices called sociometers, badges roughly the size of a credit card that record a constant stream of team interactions. The data from these devices allowed researchers to predict the outcome of a high-stakes startup pitch or a complex salary negotiation with near-perfect accuracy. This scatter plot reveals the catch. The sociometers didn't record a single word being spoken. They only measured social signals, things like the amount of eye contact, whether people talked equally, and their vocal energy. When it comes to group dynamics, spoken words are largely just noise. The nonverbal signals flying back and forth are the actual predictive data shaping the team's reality. All of these signals are being received and processed by a specific structure deep inside your brain, the amygdala. For millennia, the amygdala functions as humanity's primal alarm system, constantly scanning the environment to ask, "Am I safe?" But it has a secondary role. When receiving belonging cues, subtle signals of attention, it stops scanning for threats, dedicating all neurological resources to problem-solving and connection. This shift into psychological safety reconfigures how the brain operates. Exceptional culture relies on providing the specific environmental cues that allow the amygdala to stand down, moving the group past individual survival instincts and into a state of collective intelligence. We can see this mechanism play out in the most hostile environments imaginable. Look closely at these opposing soldiers standing shoulder to shoulder during the 1914 Christmas truce in World War I. The truce emerged from a steady accumulation of tiny mutual signals. Matching mealtimes, holding fire during rainstorms, and sharing songs provided the evidence the brain needed to lower its guard and build deep psychological safety across enemy lines. This same biological process operates in modern corporate environments. In 2002, Google founder Larry Page pinned a blunt 6-word note to the wall of the company kitchen that read, "These ads suck." An engineer named Jeff Dean, who didn't even work on the ad team, saw the note. Unprompted, he spent his entire weekend fixing the search algorithm. He did this because Google's flat, highly conversational environment fired off the exact signals his brain needed to feel secure. He viewed the company as his family. Whether you are freezing in a muddy trench or standing in the kitchen of a billion-dollar tech campus, a consistent stream of belonging cues causes humans to voluntarily sacrifice their own comfort for the benefit of the group. So what happens to a highly intelligent, well-trained team when all of those belonging cues are systematically stripped away? You get the U.S. Air Force's Minuteman Missileers. These are the officers responsible for operating America's nuclear arsenal. They spend 24-hour shifts completely isolated in underground bunkers. They have almost no prospect for career advancement, and they operate under an intense system where a single mistake on a proficiency test can ruin their careers. The results of this extreme isolation were catastrophic. The command experienced massive operational failures, widespread cheating on certification exams, and drug busts involving the officers. The Air Force tried to fix the problem by enforcing stricter discipline. But when psychological safety is absent, the human brain's survival instincts will override intelligence, protocol, and even national security. Compare that systemic failure to Greg Popovich, the most successful head coach in the modern NBA. By all accounts, Popovich is incredibly demanding, quick to anger, and notoriously grumpy. Yet his teams play with a selfless, fluid synergy that rivals are desperate to copy. He builds this dynamic off the court through intense physical closeness, asking his players deeply personal questions, and hosting team-wide debates about history and global politics. Popovich mastered a specific mechanism for generating belonging. As one of his assistants put it, he will deliver brutal, unvarnished truth to his players and then immediately turn around and love them to death. High-performance culture can coexist with a difficult or demanding leadership style, provided the leader sends a relentless, deliberate stream of signals that confirm connection. When those signals are consistent, the group remains focused on the mission rather than their individual standing. We often look at highly successful organizations and assume their team culture is a genetic trait, a magical byproduct of simply hiring the smartest, most talented people available. Culture is an active biological process. It functions like a fire. You can't just ignite it once and expect it to burn forever. It has to be continuously fed with subtle, nonverbal signals of connection. To build an exceptional team, leaders have to stop worrying about hoarding raw intelligence. Instead, they need to obsess over sending the one biological signal the human brain is desperate to hear. You are safe here.